We've had enough of the talking heads, recycling the rhetoric that we've grown used to for years. Now, we need new faces, new voices, sharing what they think about the nation's issues. We need to hear from the youth, the people still dealing with yesterday's problems, but well on their way to tomorrow's solution. So right now, we fed up with the old talk. In fact, what we need now is new talk. Youth sharing their visions and opinions on the nation's pressing issues. So make sure to check out New Talk every Sunday at 1 p.m. See what happens live right here on STV.
And we're back on New Talk. It's the opposite of old talk. And we're having a conversation. We were having a conversation during the break, Leah and I, about whether or not there are young people who, bar none, there is no way to communicate to these young people without using corporal punishment. So go ahead, Leah. Go ahead. Clarify for me, because I will admit I don't get it.
Okay, so I'm talking, as I said, mixed views. As in saying this, we have an age group to deal with. I'm talking about children, like, let's say 3 to 8, somewhere around there. To me, there's a kind of stage where you mold your child, right? Talking to them, they may not understand. They might respond better if I pinch them or, you know, give them a little lash. That's just me. As you get older, however, certain things you didn't understand then, I should be able to talk to you about it, which is why I'm saying yes, corporal punishment, but to an extent.
Okay, so let me, I agree that you know it's me and you are going to push in a corner a little bit, right? There's over the past 2 decades, there's been mounting psychological evidence around the idea that corporal punishment actually, in later years,
yes, I read that,
breeds a whole bunch of antisocial and depressive connections between individuals who've been on the receiving end of corporal punishment in their later years. That is, adults, we're talking 18, 25, 35-year-olds. Become antisocial, internalize depression, have difficulties communicating with others, right? And while corporal punishment in the immediate term gets someone to do this because they've experienced discomfort and they don't want to experience discomfort again, that psychological discomfort sticks with them through life. And do we want to, simply because we don't have the words to communicate to 3-year-olds?
Everybody do.
Okay.
I'm not antisocial.
Right, fine. I'm not necessarily saying that's everyone either.
The reason I keep harping on the fact that everyone responds differently to different things. Yes, maybe let's say a certain percentage may be affected later on in life. I'm not saying that justifies because some wouldn't be affected, still do it anyway. My thing is, not everybody. I'm 19, I'm not antisocial, I'm not depressed, I had corporal in school and home. Me and my principal, we good now. I just go back and help him with fundraisers and he used to hit me and we tight. That's just...
Amilcar shakes his head.
That's just... I'm telling you, I don't know.
Explain that expression, Amilcar, on your face. Please.
You know, I mean, that's a dangerous part. That the only way you could humanize the experience, I think, years after, is to learn to laugh at it. So, like, you could sit down on the block right now with some brethren, and I guess young women would have the same experience, and they would talk about the naked and bathed and the mother just open them with the belt inside. They get licks for when somebody steal their transport, right? And they find the parents should have wished that they were more vigilant, right? You know, you get licks for all kind of...
You get licks for things
for not being the master of your destiny, right? That is where you get licks for, right? You get licks for not being controlled, not being the eyes, the most vigilant. But if you watch how people get licks, it's the most unqualified number of things, right? And what happened, all you could do afterwards, right, to make yourself to justify the fear, but also move past it in your mind because you were afraid. You did cry. Some people pee themselves, right, during that process. Some people were afraid to even talk to the parents for the week, right? And your throat gets so heavy, even remembering the pain of it, right? You could only laugh because you were meant to cry about it the entire life, right?
So we
you could only laugh now, right? Laugh in retrospect, right? And hope that other people could have the ability to laugh about it afterwards or shake hands with the principal and say, hey, you know that licks? Let me just raise some funds for you now, right? So you can just lick more people. They might learn to
because that's justice. A bunch of other young people suffer it like me.
No, actually he doesn't anymore. He just shouts at them and he has the whip in his hand and they're scared because they think he would. But I think,
Right.
like, I had...
They don't respect him, they fear him. Just put it down there. Just put it down there.
But I think I had, like, the best of both worlds. My both parents, my mom was the strict one, the one to hit. And my dad...
It's always the mom's, eh?
It was always the moms.
Always the moms.
My dad would be like, well, yeah, that's my pet name, sorry. But, you know, he would be like, you know, you don't have to do that. And I'd be like, sometimes I don't even take him on because I know he's not going to do anything. You see what I tell you? Sometimes I need a lash.
Okay.
Because my mother, from the time that like last night, I kicked down her plan by mistake. My mother bad for she plans, right?
Okay.
And she was furious if I was home
Your
at the
mom's
time.
not to be sure, right?
Probably. If I was home at the time, she might have hit me for kicking down her plans. But
Yeah,
glad I wasn't.
By mistake, you said that.
Yeah,
Nah.
that's what I'm...
That's it.
No, and it's the thing that I want to get to. No, it's the thing that I want. It's the thing that I want to.
By mistake.
It's the thing that I want to
No,
draw the
but the
most from
point
Amilcar's
is-
statement is
no.
that some people get licks for completely arbitrary reasons.
Yeah.
It feels completely unjust. I get robbed. I get robbed on my way from school.
Wait, what's
I
the
don't know if the
thing?
boy who robbed me get if he get licks when he reach home, but I get licks
No.
because somebody advantaged me.
Why
Right?
you doing walking there? I know that's
That's a
something.
place that does always walk to and from school every single day. That happened.
Well, you should never do that, Brenda.
I should never walk.
No, you should
by
never
yourself.
walk by yourself the same place every day.
Your mother
every night.
beating you for not using a
For
common
not using
sense.
Right, so I get licks as a child because I have an established pattern to experience the universe. I get licks because I have an established pattern of understanding the universe. That's the
Yeah. Plant and you afraid of your mother? How she would have
I know a man.
She would have tripped.
I know a brethren, and right, we're telling stories now. I know a brethren get licks from his mom's, right? Fundamentally at its core, because he told his mother he didn't want plums.
He didn't want what?
He didn't want
His
what?
mother offered him plums. He said no. She thought he was being rude. Equals licks, right?
Okay.
And to him, he's like, what? So I'm supposed to the
Eat
rule
plums.
is I'm supposed to accept everything that somebody gives me now. But if he does that, he will also get licks because depending on who offers you what, like somebody from, because also our parents just teach us as children
Never take anything
to
from
be.
strangers.
Was he laid up? Not even that, but like my parents tried to instill in me that I'm supposed to be humble enough to say no regardless of whether or not I want something that someone is offering, right? So somebody from church offer me something, right? And I say yes, I am also being disrespectful and I could get licks for that. And and that's the reality is that we get licks not necessarily because of there's some just through line, but because our parents have internalized some set of really arbitrary rules since independence about how good boys and girls
So
behave.
you're only against corporal punishment if you don't see the justification.
I'm
behind
against
it.
corporal punishment regardless, but
No,
I'm
because-
I'm against corporal punishment because it's a tool that is applied arbitrarily. There is no and there's a poem that I wrote last year about it. Not last year, year before, when the video of the woman beating her child with a shovel came out. It's like a cocktail is not a conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And fundamentally, unless of course you're speaking to someone who cannot hear, a conversation is applicable to everyone and stretches out the concern that we are having to its fundamentally smallest bits. And we can have a conversation about how to have individuals move around the universe concerning truth, as opposed to we just beating somebody because we want them to internalize just simply not to do this. Not why, not when, not whether there is an opportunity where this is appropriate. Simply, I am alive, and while I am alive, you can't do this anywhere because I'll cut your tail.
Yeah, Jay, I like that point you brought up because I think the reason why I'm against it is what we call ageism. It's discrimination by age, and that is why when a child hits a parent or a teacher,
It's always wrong.
yes, it's always wrong because what they have done is reverse is
The power structure
yes,
gets switched
the
around.
structure is always to beat down, right?
Right.
So the day somebody ever raise a hand up,
Yeah.
Yes.
it's a World War III, right? Because it's like, well, what the hell is this going on in here? Because, things only become sometimes transparent or easily understood when we see it happen in the reverse in that way. And it is about ageism, where you think you have power over the bodies of other people. And that is why, like, I remember when I was younger, a parent giving permission to have this kind of school bus thing. like beat my child, like, no. He's like, yeah, I hit him today, he was giving trouble. And I say, yeah, he's misbehaved. And everybody just having this conversation about beating this boy, right? A communal licking, right? And that is because we have a society where it's the same way. If we rethink it, and I like how Brendon made the point, you have a ministry of national security, or you want a ministry of public safety, right? And if we had a ministry of public safety, what would have been the conversation around defense then, right? It might be a little bit different with the way that we go approach it. So it's a way I would encourage people to rethink using violence as a means of having that conversation where people break rules throughout their life. And the same way we don't like violence that apply in other forms, I think we should.
Okay, so
Sorry to cut you off, but I want to pressure Jaime a little bit, right? Because you have a young son, right? So you're gonna have to deal with this much sooner than any of us by comparison, right? Let's assume hypothetically because you have mixed views on corporal punishment, but you decide to beat your child for select instances, right? When your child becomes 16, 17, 18, and you do something unreasonable to him, does he have the right to put his hand on you?
No.
Why not? Because we've established that justice can be communicated through violence. And I mean, he doesn't necessarily believe at that age that he can out-rationalize you, but he get a little strength in here now, so maybe he decide. And justice can be communicated in this way. Why not?
Well,
Because you're older.
not only that.
Not only that.
Okay. Let me start from hitting him.
Right.
First
Okay.
of all,
Please.
I don't agree with it, especially now he's only a year. So I find hitting him now is just, as Amilcar was saying, is instilling fear as a parent. You're not gaining any respect. He's not learning anything. He's just getting licks in futility, as my mother would say. If my grandmother explained it to me very clearly once, if you explain to your children why you are disciplining them, they actually learn something. She told me a story about my uncle. When he was about, I believe he was 4 or 5, and he did something, and I don't know if she was the one going to beat him or who. I honestly can't remember, forgive me. And she told him, she carried him outside by a plant and told him, try to bend this plant. Bend it, break off the branch, whatever. Sent him by the plum tree. Could you bend or break that? He looked at it. No. I'm giving you licks because you can only learn, or as you were saying, you learn the difference between right and wrong between a certain age. So you mold your child between a certain age. And that could only happen at that time. Right?
Okay.
I mean, you could learn more as you get older, yes.
Right.
But I don't know how to phrase it. But,
Right.
but
I think I get what you're trying to say there.
right. So you have
That the young person is more malleable at this particular age.
exactly. So you use that time to do your best with them.
Okay.
Because from the time they start to think for themselves, as you say, licks is the only thing that could work at that point. in
Right.
time.
So then let me challenge the analogy itself, right? What are we trying to mold? The minds or the bodies?
The
I want to come
minds.
back to that question. I want to come back to that question because that's important. But we need to take a break. You're here watching New Talk, the opposite of Old Talk. It's right here on Synergy TV, Real TV. We'll be back after this.